Christie stands frozen at his son's anniversary party as his daughter-in-law Amanda suddenly announces to the entire room that he must give her $2 million, or she'll reveal his disgusting secret to everyone, including his son. The room falls silent. Christie notices his son's confused expression and the shocked faces of family and friends. His heart pounds as he realizes this isn't a joke. Amanda smiles confidently, not knowing Christie has been recording her increasingly suspicious behavior for weeks, preparing for something like this. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this at 67 years old. My name is Christie Wilson, and I spent my entire life building a successful construction supply business from nothing but hard work and determination. I started with just a pickup truck and a small loan, eventually growing it into a company that employed over 200 people across 3 states. I'm not saying this to brag, but to help you understand what was at stake when my daughter-in-law decided to target everything I'd built. My only son Jack married Amanda 3 years ago, after what I'd call a whirlwind romance. They met at a charity fundraiser in Boston, where Jack works as an investment advisor. Amanda was supposedly working for the event organizer, though I would later discover that was just one of her many fabricated credentials. Within 6 months of meeting, they were engaged, and 3 months after that, married in what Amanda insisted be an expensive ceremony that I largely financed. I welcomed her warmly into our family from the beginning. When they were looking for their first house, I helped with the down payment as a wedding gift. I wanted my son to have an easier start than I did. The house was in an upscale neighborhood in Brookline, probably more than they needed as newlyweds, but Amanda had insisted it was the perfect starter home. Jack had always been sensible about money before Amanda, but he seemed blind to her extravagant tastes. There were warning signs about Amanda that I ignored. The way she would casually mention expensive jewelry she liked whenever we were together. How she seemed more interested in my business success than in getting to know me as a person. The subtle ways she would guide conversations toward money and inheritances. At family gatherings, she'd ask pointed questions about my retirement plans and investments. I brushed these off as the natural curiosity of a young woman joining a new family. For their 3rd anniversary, I had planned something special. I was going to announce that I was gifting them an additional $50,000 toward their mortgage. The party was at their home, with about 30 guests, including close family and friends. The evening had been pleasant, with catered food and flowing champagne. Amanda had been unusually attentive to me, making sure my glass was always full, positioning me near the center of the room for what I assumed would be a toast. Then it happened. As dessert was being served, Amanda clinked her glass, drawing everyone's attention. I expected a sweet speech about their 3 years together. Instead, she looked directly at me, with cold eyes I'd never seen before. "I'd like to make an announcement," she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "Christie, I know you're planning to adjust your will. Before you do, I want $2 million transferred to my personal account within 48 hours, or I'll tell everyone in this room, including your precious son, about your disgusting secret." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Jack, whose face had drained of color. Our family friends stared in shock, appetizer forks frozen midway to their mouths. My sister Patricia looked like she might faint. "Amanda," I said carefully, "I think we should discuss this privately." She smiled, a predatory grin that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, Christie. I'm just making sure you understand the stakes." We moved to Jack and Amanda's home office, while guests awkwardly made conversation in the living room. Once the door closed behind us, Amanda's demeanor changed completely. "I don't know what game you're playing," I said, "but this is completely inappropriate." "No games, Christie," she replied, sitting casually on the edge of the desk. "I know you're planning to change your will to include several charitable donations instead of leaving everything to Jack, and by extension, to me." I was stunned. I had indeed been discussing such changes with my attorney, but those conversations were confidential. "That's my personal business," I replied, "and there's no secret for you to expose." Amanda laughed. "It doesn't matter if there's actually a secret. What matters is what I tell Jack. For instance, I could tell him you made inappropriate advances toward me last Christmas, when everyone else was asleep. I've already created some very convincing evidence." My blood ran cold as I realized how calculated this was. "That's a disgusting lie. $2 million, Christie. Cash. 48 hours, or your relationship with your son is over. She walked toward the door, then turned back. And don't bother telling Jack about our little chat. I've already planted the seeds that you've been acting strangely, possibly showing early signs of dementia. Who do you think he'll believe? We returned to the party, where Amanda smoothly told everyone there had been a misunderstanding about some family business matters. She was so convincing that guests seemed relieved, quickly returning to their conversations and champagne. Later that evening, as guests were leaving, Jack approached me with concern in his eyes. "Dad, what was that about with Amanda? She told me you've been having some financial problems and asked her for money? Why didn't you come to me?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Amanda had already started her manipulation, but in a way I hadn't anticipated. She'd told Jack I was the one desperate for money. "That's not what happened, Jack," I said carefully. "We can talk about it tomorrow when things are calmer." Jack nodded, but I could see doubt in his eyes. "Sure, Dad. Just remember, you can always be honest with me." As I drove home that night, I realized the gravity of my situation. Amanda wasn't just after money. She was methodically driving a wedge between me and my son, and she'd been planning this for much longer than I had initially thought. The morning after the anniversary party, I called my longtime friend and attorney, Frank Peterson. We'd been friends since college, and he'd handled all my legal matters for over 30 years. I explained the situation as calmly as I could, though my hands were shaking as I recounted Amanda's threats. "Christie, this is serious," Frank said after listening intently. "She's essentially blackmailing you with false accusations. We need to document everything. Have you recorded any of your interactions with her?" "Actually, yes," I replied. "I started recording our conversations about 3 weeks ago." Frank was surprised. "That's unusually proactive of you. What made you start doing that?" I explained how my suspicions about Amanda had begun several weeks earlier. I had stopped by their house unannounced to drop off a birthday gift for Jack. Amanda didn't hear me come in, and I overheard her on the phone in the kitchen. "Don't worry, I'm handling it," she had said to whoever was on the line. "The old man trusts me completely. It's just a matter of time before we get access to everything. Jack has no idea." I had quietly left without letting her know I was there, disturbed by what I'd heard. That evening, I purchased a small legal recording device that I kept in my pocket whenever I knew I would be seeing Amanda. Frank had actually advised me years ago that Massachusetts is a two-party consent state for recordings, but had mentioned exceptions when someone has no reasonable expectation of privacy or when collecting evidence of certain crimes. "Those recordings could be crucial," Frank said. "But Christie, you need to be careful. Family court battles get ugly, and no matter how this plays out, your relationship with Jack could suffer." Over the next few days, I tried repeatedly to speak with Jack, but he was suddenly always busy or distracted on the phone. When we did talk, he seemed distant, even suspicious of me. Amanda had clearly been working on him. My sister Patricia called me, her voice thick with concern. "Christie, what's going on?" "Amanda called me yesterday, saying she's worried about your mental health. She mentioned something about inappropriate behavior and financial problems. Is everything okay?" I felt a surge of anger mixed with hurt. "Patricia, none of that is true. Amanda is trying to manipulate the family. Please don't believe what she's telling you." There was a pause on the line. "I want to believe you, Christie, but Amanda sounded so sincere. She said you might deny everything because you're embarrassed." I realized then how skilled Amanda was at this game. She was systematically isolating me from everyone who might support me. Through some online research, and with help from Frank's paralegal, I discovered something disturbing. Amanda had been in a similar situation before. She had dated a wealthy software developer named Thomas for about a year before meeting Jack. Thomas's father, Gerald Lawson, lived in Seattle. I found his number and called him. Gerald was initially hesitant to speak with me, but when I explained my situation, he opened up. "It's like hearing my own story played back to me," he said with a heavy sigh. "Amanda, though she called herself Mandy then, did almost exactly the same thing to our family. She tried to get money from me by threatening to accuse me of inappropriate behavior. I paid her $75,000 to leave my son alone and keep quiet. I was too embarrassed to fight it, and I regret that decision every day. My son still doesn't know what really happened." This confirmation of Amanda's pattern was both validating and terrifying. I thanked Gerald for his honesty and promised to let him know how my situation resolved. That evening, I received a panicked call from Jack. "Dad, did you know about this? Amanda just told me she checked our joint savings account and $50,000 is missing. She says you might have transferred it out because of your financial problems. Please tell me that's not true." My heart sank. Amanda had taken their money and was blaming me. "Jack, I didn't take any money from your accounts. I don't even have access to them. You need to check with your bank about who made that transfer." Amanda already called them. "The transfer was made last Tuesday when I was at work." "Dad, what's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? Because if you are, we can figure it out together." The genuine concern in my son's voice broke my heart. He still wanted to believe the best of me, even as Amanda was manipulating him to doubt everything. "Jack, I'm not in any financial trouble. My business is solid. My retirement is secure. I need you to listen carefully. Amanda is not who you think she is." There was a long silence on the line. "Dad, Amanda mentioned you might say something like this. She said sometimes you get confused and paranoid. She's really worried about you. And honestly, now I am too. I felt like I was drowning. My own son thought I was losing my mind, all because of Amanda's careful groundwork. Jack, I'm perfectly sound mentally. Amanda is manipulating you. She's trying to get money from me by threatening to lie about me to you." "I don't know what to believe," Jack said, his voice strained. "Amanda suggested we should all sit down with a family therapist. I think that might be a good idea." After we hung up, I sat alone in my study, feeling more isolated than I ever had in my life. Amanda had executed her plan perfectly. She'd emptied a joint account she shared with Jack, blamed me for it, and was now positioning herself as concerned about my mental health. My son, who had always trusted me completely, was now doubting my sanity. I poured myself 2 fingers of scotch and called Frank again. "She's taken $50,000 from their joint account," I told him, "and she's convinced Jack I'm having some kind of mental break." "This is escalating quickly," Frank said. "Christie, I think we need to consider bringing in a professional investigator. There's clearly more to Amanda's background than we know." I agreed, and Frank arranged for me to meet with a private investigator named Sarah Jenkins the next day. Little did I know that the worst was yet to come. The following morning, I met with Frank and Sarah Jenkins, a former FBI agent who now worked as a private investigator specializing in fraud cases. Sarah was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything about me as we shook hands. "Mr. Wilson, based on what Frank has told me, you're dealing with someone who knows exactly what they're doing," Sarah said after I'd given her all the details. "This isn't amateur hour. The pattern of isolation, the careful manipulation of family members, the financial angle, it's all very methodical." "What are my options?" I asked. Frank leaned forward. "Legally, you could pursue this as blackmail and potentially file for a restraining order, but I'm concerned about what that would do to your relationship with Jack. Without hard evidence that Amanda is fabricating these claims, it would be your word against hers. And these recordings you have," Sarah added, "while helpful for us to understand what's happening, might not be admissible in court because of Massachusetts 2-party consent laws. There are exceptions, but it can get complicated." I left that meeting with a heavy heart but a plan in place. Sarah would investigate Amanda's background thoroughly, while Frank prepared for potential legal scenarios. Meanwhile, I would continue documenting every interaction. When I returned home, I had 3 voicemails from Jack. Each one sounded increasingly concerned. I called him back immediately. "Dad, I've been trying to reach you all morning. Where were you?" There was an accusatory tone in his voice I'd never heard before. "I had a meeting with Frank about some business matters," I said, not wanting to lie but also not ready to tell him about the investigation. "Business matters?" "Dad, Amanda found some emails." "From you?" Jack's voice cracked slightly. They're inappropriate, Dad. Really inappropriate messages to her." My blood ran cold. "Jack, I never sent Amanda any inappropriate emails. Whatever she's showing you, they're not from me. They came from your email address, Dad. I saw them myself. There are dozens of them going back months. Comments about her appearance, suggestions about meeting secretly. How could you do this? I sat down, feeling physically ill. Jack, those are fabricated. I never wrote any such things. Amanda is setting me up. Stop blaming Amanda for everything, Jack shouted. First you're acting weird at our anniversary party. Then money goes missing. Now these emails. And instead of taking responsibility, you're trying to make it seem like Amanda is some kind of con artist. Jack, please, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Think about this logically. Have I ever given you reason to believe I would act this way? In your entire life? Have I ever done anything to make you think I would disrespect your marriage like this? There was a pause. I don't know what to think anymore, Dad. Amanda's been telling me for weeks that you've been acting strangely. She noticed it before I did. The forgetfulness, the confusion, the inappropriate comments. I'm not confused or forgetful, Jack. I'm being framed by your wife. Amanda suggested we have a family meeting to discuss getting you some help. Her uncle is a neurologist who specializes in early onset dementia. We're all worried about you, Dad. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Fake emails. A neurologist uncle. Amanda was weaving an elaborate web, and my son was completely entangled in it. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. It was Amanda. Tick-tock, Christie. 40 hours left to transfer the money. Jack is already starting to see the truth about his perverted father. I documented the text and forwarded it to Frank and Sarah. The next day brought another escalation. Jack called to inform me that Amanda had organized a family intervention for my mental health issues. My sister Patricia would be there, along with my brother Thomas and several close family friends. This is for your own good, Dad, Jack said. We're all concerned about you. I knew refusing to attend would only make me look guilty or unstable, so I agreed. But first, I made an appointment with my own doctor, Dr. Alan Richardson, who had been my physician for over 20 years. I explained the situation and asked for a comprehensive neurological assessment. Christie, I just saw you for your annual physical 3 months ago, Dr. Richardson said, looking puzzled. There were no signs of cognitive impairment whatsoever, but if it will help put your mind at ease, we can run some tests. The tests were scheduled for the following morning, just hours before the intervention. That afternoon, I received a call from Sarah Jenkins. Mr. Wilson, I've found something interesting. Before she was Amanda Wilson, your daughter-in-law was Amanda Cooper. And before that, she was Mandy Peterson. She has a history of financial fraud in Arizona and was charged, though not convicted, of extortion in 2016. She's changed her identity multiple times. Can you get me documentation of this? Already compiling it. There's more, too. I've been able to verify the story from Gerald Lawson in Seattle. She targeted his family using almost identical tactics. And I found another victim in Chicago. This confirmation strengthened my resolve. Amanda wasn't just manipulating my family. She was a practiced con artist with multiple victims. The intervention was as uncomfortable as I had anticipated. It was held in Jack and Amanda's living room, with 7 people sitting in a circle like some kind of twisted therapy session. Amanda had positioned herself next to Jack, holding his hand supportively. My siblings looked concerned but confused, clearly not fully understanding why they were there. Amanda spoke first. Thank you all for coming. We're here because we love Christie, and we're worried about him. Over the past few months, Jack and I have noticed some concerning changes in his behavior. She went on to describe fabricated incidents of memory loss, confusion, and inappropriate behavior. With each lie, I could see my family members growing more concerned. And most disturbing, Amanda continued, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper, Christie has been sending me inappropriate messages for months. I didn't want to tell Jack, but when Christie asked me to meet him secretly, I knew I had to speak up. The room was silent. My brother Thomas looked at me with a mixture of disgust and pity. Patricia was crying quietly. That's completely false, I said calmly. I have never sent Amanda any inappropriate messages. In fact, Amanda is blackmailing me. She's demanded $2 million, or she'll continue spreading these lies. Amanda gasped dramatically. See? This is exactly what the doctor said might happen. Paranoid delusions, accusations. It's a classic sign of frontotemporal dementia. Jack squeezed her hand. Dad, please. We're trying to help you. I saw my doctor this morning. I countered. I've had a complete neurological workup. There is absolutely nothing wrong with my cognitive function. I removed the doctor's report from my jacket pocket and placed it on the coffee table. You're welcome to call Dr. Richardson directly, Amanda quickly interjected. Many patients with dementia can pass basic screenings. My uncle says it happens all the time. Your uncle the neurologist? I asked. What's his name and where does he practice? I'd like to speak with him directly. Amanda hesitated just slightly. Dr. Robert Cooper at Massachusetts General. I noted the name, knowing Sarah would check it out. Based on Amanda's pattern of lies, I suspected this uncle either didn't exist or wasn't a doctor at all. The intervention continued for another painful hour, with Amanda skillfully manipulating the conversation whenever I tried to present facts. By the end, my family was divided. Thomas seemed to believe Amanda, Patricia was uncertain, and Jack looked torn apart by the conflict. As everyone was leaving, Jack pulled me aside. Dad, I don't know what's happening, but this is tearing me up. I love you, and I love Amanda. I don't want to believe either of you would lie to me. The pain in his eyes nearly broke me. Jack, I've never lied to you in your life, and I'm not starting now. I love you too much for that. As I drove home, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Mr. Wilson. There is no Dr. Robert Cooper at Mass General. In fact, there's no neurologist by that name registered in the entire state of Massachusetts. Another lie exposed. But would it be enough to convince Jack? Then Sarah delivered another bombshell. I've also been monitoring Amanda's activities as you requested. She's been in contact with a man named Derek Stevens multiple times this week. Based on their communication patterns and the information I've gathered, I believe he's not just a friend. They appear to be romantically involved. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Amanda was not only trying to extort money from me but was cheating on my son. The depths of her deception seemed bottomless. There's more, Sarah continued. She's been looking at real estate listings in Florida, expensive properties, and she's made inquiries about international wire transfers with 3 different banks. The picture was becoming clearer. Amanda planned to get my money, clean out whatever was left in their accounts, and disappear with her lover, leaving Jack emotionally and financially devastated. As I pulled into my driveway, I received another text from Amanda. 24 hours left, Christie. I'm losing patience. $2 million. Or Jack sees all the evidence tomorrow. Your choice. I forwarded the text to Frank and Sarah, then went inside to plan my next move. The stakes had just gotten much higher. That night, I could barely sleep. The thought of Amanda not only trying to extort money from me, but also planning to abandon and devastate my son, filled me with a mixture of rage and determination. By morning, I had decided it was time to go on the offensive. I called Frank first thing. I want to meet Amanda and record her making these demands explicitly. Massachusetts might be a 2-party consent state, but there's an exception for gathering evidence of certain crimes, including extortion. That's correct, Frank said. But you'd need to be very careful about how you do this. It can't seem like you're entrapping her. Next, I called Sarah, with additional instructions for her investigation. I need everything you can find on this Derek Stevens character, and any property Amanda might be looking at in Florida. Also, check if she's made any recent large purchases or opened new bank accounts. By midday, I had a clear picture of what we were dealing with. Amanda had indeed been seeing Derek Stevens for at least 6 months, nearly half the time she'd been married to Jack. Derek had a history of fraud himself and was currently on probation for investment scams. Amanda had put deposits down on 2 different properties in Miami under the name Amanda Cooper and had opened a new bank account at First National Bank 3 weeks earlier. I decided to call Amanda directly. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cool and collected. Christie. Calling to tell me about the wire transfer? Actually, Amanda, I'd like to discuss your terms in person. This isn't the kind of thing we should handle over the phone. There was a brief pause. Fine. Meet me at Riverside Park near the boathouse at 3 o'clock. Come alone, obviously. Of course. Before heading to the meeting, I consulted with Frank and Sarah once more, making sure my recording device was working properly and that I understood exactly what I needed to get Amanda to say on record. Riverside Park was relatively quiet for a weekday afternoon. I spotted Amanda sitting on a bench near the water, sunglasses covering her eyes despite the cloudy day. She wore an expensive-looking dress and heels that seemed impractical for a park meeting. "Thank you for coming," I said, sitting down beside her but maintaining a careful distance. "Let's not waste time with pleasantries," she replied. "Do you have an answer for me? I'm considering your offer, but I need to understand exactly what I'm paying for." Amanda smiled coldly. "You're buying my silence, Christie. $2 million, and I never tell Jack about how his father made inappropriate advances toward his wife. I never show him the emails or texts. I never tell your friends or business associates. But none of that actually happened," I said calmly. "You've fabricated all of it. Does it matter? It's your word against mine, and I've spent months building my case while you weren't paying attention. Jack already half believes you're losing your mind. Your sister thinks you're having some kind of late-life crisis. Who do you think people will believe? A confused old man or a concerned young wife? And if I pay you this money, what happens then? Then I suddenly discover that it was all a big misunderstanding. Your inappropriate comments were just jokes I took the wrong way. The emails were spam or hacking. Your memory issues were stress-related. Everyone reconciles, and we all live happily ever after." Amanda leaned closer. "Until I decide I need more money. Of course. So this isn't a one-time payment? Smart man. Consider the $2 million a down payment on my ongoing discretion. And what about the $50,000 missing from Jack's account?" Amanda's expression flickered just slightly. "A misunderstanding with the bank. It'll be resolved once our arrangement is finalized." "I see. And your boyfriend Derek? Is he part of this arrangement too?" For the first time, Amanda looked genuinely surprised. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Derek Stevens. The man you've been seeing for the past 6 months. The one you're planning to move to Miami with after you clean out my bank account and whatever is left of Jack's." Amanda's composure slipped momentarily before she regained control. "You're delusional. This is exactly the kind of paranoid accusation that proves you're not well. I have photographs, Amanda. Phone records. Evidence of the properties you've put deposits on in Florida. Wire transfer records. Would you like me to share those with Jack? Or perhaps with the police?" Her face hardened. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Just like you're bluffing about having evidence of inappropriate behavior from me. The difference is, my evidence is real." For a moment, Amanda seemed at a loss for words. Then she stood up. "You have 24 hours to transfer the money, Christie. After that, your relationship with your son is over forever." "Before you go, Amanda, I have one more question. Do you actually love Jack at all? Or was he just a convenient target?" She turned back, a small smile playing on her lips. "Jack is a sweet man. Naive, trusting, easily manipulated. Men like that are rare these days. But $2 million buys a lot more excitement than a lifetime with an investment advisor in Boston." With that, she walked away, her heels clicking on the park pathway. I sat there for a few minutes, making sure she was gone before I checked my recording device. The entire conversation had been captured clearly. Amanda had explicitly admitted to fabricating evidence, to having no actual inappropriate behavior to report, to planning ongoing extortion, and to her relationship with Derek and her plans to leave Jack. I called Frank immediately. "I got it all. Every admission we needed." "Excellent," Frank replied. "But Christie, we need to be careful about how we use this. Playing this recording for Jack will devastate him. It will confirm that his wife never loved him and has been manipulating him all along." "I know," I said heavily. "But the alternative is worse. She's going to bleed him dry financially and emotionally if we don't stop her now." Later that afternoon, Sarah called with more information. "Mr. Wilson, Amanda has contacted a tabloid newspaper. She's offering them a story about a prominent Boston businessman with inappropriate behavior toward his daughter-in-law. She hasn't named you specifically yet, but she's negotiating a price for the full story." My blood boiled at the depths of her betrayal. Not only was she trying to extort money directly from me, but she was also planning to sell her fabricated story to the press. "There's one more thing," Sarah added. "She's booked a flight to Miami for 2 days from now. One-way ticket, so that was her plan. Get the money from me, possibly get more from a tabloid, then disappear to Florida with Derek before Jack even realized what had happened." I spent the evening in deep thought, considering every angle. The evidence we had gathered was damning. Amanda was not just a manipulative daughter-in-law, she was a practiced con artist with a documented history of similar schemes. But exposing her would hurt Jack deeply. I remembered something my father told me when I was young. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to tell them a painful truth. Jack deserved to know the truth about Amanda, no matter how much it would hurt initially. I called Jack and asked if we could meet the following day. To my surprise, he agreed readily, suggesting we have lunch at his favorite restaurant downtown. I wondered if, despite Amanda's manipulation, some part of him still trusted his father. That night, I carefully prepared all the evidence we had gathered. The recordings, the documentation of Amanda's past identities and fraudulent activities, the evidence of her relationship with Derek, the property purchases in Florida, the flight reservation. It painted a comprehensive picture of a woman who had targeted my son as part of a calculated financial scheme. In the morning, I received another text from Amanda. 12 hours left. Decision time, Christie. I didn't respond. Instead, I met with Frank to finalize our strategy. We decided that after showing Jack the evidence privately, we would confront Amanda with all the family present. It would be painful and messy, but it was the only way to expose her completely and protect Jack from further manipulation. Frank had also prepared legal documents for potential restraining orders and had contacted the Financial Crimes Division of the Boston Police Department about Amanda's history. While they couldn't act without a formal complaint, they were prepared to move quickly if we decided to press charges. As I headed to meet Jack for lunch, I felt a strange calm. After weeks of being manipulated and on the defensive, I was finally taking control of the situation. Whatever happened next, the truth would come out. But when I arrived at the restaurant, Jack wasn't alone. Amanda sat beside him, her hand possessively on his arm, a triumphant smile on her face. This wasn't going to be the private conversation I had planned. "Dad," Jack said, his voice strained. "Amanda thought it would be good if we all talked together. As a family." I realized then that Amanda had intercepted our meeting. She wasn't going to give me any opportunity to speak with Jack alone. The confrontation I had planned would need to happen now, with both of them present. "Actually," I said, sitting down across from them, "I think that's an excellent idea." The restaurant was busy with the lunch crowd, providing a constant background murmur of conversation. Amanda had chosen a table in the center of the room, presumably thinking I wouldn't cause a scene in such a public place. She didn't know how prepared I was for this moment. "I'm glad we could all meet like this," Amanda said sweetly, her hand still resting on Jack's arm. "I think it's important we clear the air as a family." Jack looked uncomfortable, his eyes moving between Amanda and me. I could see the strain on his face, the confusion of a man being pulled in two directions by the people he trusted most. "I agree completely," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "In fact, clearing the air is exactly why I wanted to meet with Jack today." Amanda's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Jack and I have been talking, and we're very concerned about your recent behavior, Christie. The accusations, the paranoia, it's not like you." "You're right about one thing," I said. "It's not like me. I've never been in a situation where someone was attempting to blackmail me before." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, please. We're in public." "I'm sorry, son, but this can't wait any longer." I took out my phone and placed it on the table. "Amanda has been demanding $2 million from me. She's threatened to fabricate accusations of inappropriate behavior if I don't pay." Amanda's face registered shock for just a moment before she composed herself. "This is exactly what I was talking about, Jack. These delusional accusations. It's a classic sign of—" "I have recorded evidence," I interrupted, my voice firm, but not raised. "Every conversation, every text message, including our meeting yesterday at Riverside Park, where Amanda explicitly admitted she was fabricating everything." Jack looked at Amanda, confusion and the first hints of doubt crossing his face. "What is he talking about? What meeting?" Amanda's expression hardened. "Your father is clearly unwell, Jack. He's making things up. There was no meeting." I pressed play on my phone. Amanda's voice came through clearly. "You're buying my silence, Christie. $2 million, and I never tell Jack about how his father made inappropriate advances toward his wife. I never show him the emails or texts. I never tell your friends or business associates. Then my voice. But none of that actually happened. You've fabricated all of it. And Amanda again. Does it matter? It's your word against mine, and I've spent months building my case while you weren't paying attention. I stopped the recording and looked at Jack. His face had drained of color. Amanda was gripping the edge of the table, her knuckles white. That's not me, she said quickly. He's doctored that recording. Jack, you know I would never say those things. The recording continues, I said quietly. It includes Amanda discussing her boyfriend Derek Stevens, the properties she's purchased in Florida, and her plans to leave you after getting my money. Jack looked stunned. Amanda, what is he talking about? What boyfriend? He's lying, Jack. Can't you see what he's doing? He's trying to come between us because he's always been controlling. He can't stand that you have a life independent from him. Amanda, I said, my voice steady, you've booked a one-way flight to Miami for tomorrow. You've put deposits on 2 properties in Florida under the name Amanda Cooper. You've been seeing Derek Stevens for at least 6 months. And you've stolen $50,000 from Jack's account. These aren't accusations. They're documented facts. Jack turned to Amanda, his expression a mixture of disbelief and dawning horror. Is any of this true? Amanda's demeanor changed completely. Her face contorted with anger as she realized her carefully constructed scheme was unraveling. Your father is a manipulative old man who can't stand to see you happy, she hissed. He's been trying to control you your entire life. Now he's making up these ridiculous stories because he's jealous of our relationship. The missing money from our account? Jack asked quietly. You said that was a bank error. It was. This is insane, Jack. Are you really going to believe these crazy accusations? I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. This contains bank records showing the transfer of $50,000 from your joint account to a new account. Amanda opened 3 weeks ago at First National Bank under the name Amanda Cooper. It also contains property records for 2 condominiums in Miami, both with deposits paid by Amanda Cooper. And it includes phone records showing daily contact between Amanda and Derek Stevens, often while you were at work. Jack looked at the folder, but didn't reach for it. Amanda, just tell me the truth. Please. For a moment, it seemed like Amanda might continue denying everything. Then her expression changed, becoming cold and calculating. You want the truth, Jack? Fine. Your father is right about one thing. I never loved you. You were convenient. A nice, stable, trusting man with a wealthy father. You were an investment, not a husband. The cruelty of her words hit Jack like a physical blow. He recoiled slightly, his face registering shock and pain. The $50,000? He asked, his voice barely audible. A down payment on my new life, Amanda replied, dropping all pretense now. A life far away from this boring existence with you. And Derek? Derek understands me in ways you never could. He's exciting, ambitious, everything you're not. I watched my son absorb these brutal truths, my heart breaking for him. But I knew this clarity, however painful, was necessary. You were never going to get the $2 million from my father, were you? Jack asked, realization dawning. This was all just a con. Oh, I would have gotten it, Amanda said with chilling confidence. I've done this before. Men like your father, wealthy, proud, protective of their reputations, they always pay eventually. The only mistake I made was underestimating how far he'd go to investigate me. Jack stood up suddenly. I need some air. Jack, wait, Amanda said, her tone suddenly softer. We can talk about this. There's more to the story. I don't think there is, Jack replied, his voice hollow. Dad, can we go? I can't be here anymore. I nodded, standing up. Amanda grabbed Jack's arm. You can't just leave. What about our marriage? Our home? Everything we've built? Jack gently removed her hand. There was never a we, Amanda. You just admitted that. It was all a lie. As we walked toward the door, Amanda called after us, her voice rising. This isn't over. I still have evidence against your father. I'll go to the press. I'll make sure everyone knows about his behavior. I turned back briefly. The only evidence you have is fabricated, and we both know it. And if you go to the press or continue these threats, The police will be very interested in your history of fraud across multiple states. Not to mention the $50,000 you stole from Jack's account. Amanda's face flushed with anger. You'll regret this, both of you. But her threats sounded hollow now. The desperate cries of someone whose careful plans had collapsed entirely. Outside the restaurant, Jack leaned against the building, taking deep breaths. I feel like I'm in a nightmare. How did I not see any of this? I put my hand on his shoulder. She's very good at what she does, Jack. You're not the first person she's manipulated like this. The woman I've been living with, sleeping next to, planning a future with. She never existed, did she? Nah, son. I'm so sorry. A tear rolled down Jack's cheek, and I pulled him into an embrace like I used to when he was a boy. For a moment, we just stood there on the sidewalk, father and son, weathering a storm together. What happens now? Jack asked finally. Now we go to my house, call Frank, and figure out our next steps. We need to protect you legally and financially, and then we'll get through this, one day at a time. As we walked to my car, Jack turned to me. Dad, I'm sorry I doubted you. When Amanda started saying those things about you, I should have known better. Don't apologize, Jack. Amanda is a professional manipulator. She knew exactly how to drive a wedge between us. The important thing is that we know the truth now. In that moment, despite the pain and betrayal we'd both experienced, I felt a profound sense of relief. The truth had come out. Amanda's manipulation had been exposed. And most importantly, my son and I were facing this crisis together. Our bond stronger than any lie Amanda could fabricate. When we arrived at my house, Jack was still in a state of shock. He sat in my living room, staring at the wall, occasionally shaking his head as if trying to dislodge the painful revelations of the past hour. I should call Frank, I said gently. We need to discuss next steps. Jack nodded absently. What exactly did your investigator find out about her? I hesitated, unsure how much more pain to inflict on my son today. But he deserved the whole truth. Amanda Cooper isn't her original name. She's changed identities several times. Before you, she was involved with at least 2 other men from wealthy families. In both cases, she attempted similar schemes. One paid her off, the other confronted her, and she disappeared. And I was just the next target, Jack said bitterly. I'm afraid so. Sarah, my investigator, found evidence that Amanda has been planning this for a long time. She researched our family before she ever accidentally met you at that charity event. Jack looked up, his expression pained. It wasn't an accident? Even our first meeting was staged? I nodded sadly. She volunteered at the event specifically because she knew you would be attending. Jack ran his hands through his hair. I feel like such a fool. You're not a fool, Jack. You're a good man who chose to see the best in someone. That's not foolishness. It's decency. Frank arrived 30 minutes later, carrying a briefcase full of legal documents. He greeted Jack warmly, his expression compassionate. Jack, I'm truly sorry you're going through this. But you should know your father has been fighting tirelessly to protect you. I'm beginning to understand that, Jack replied. Frank laid out our options clearly. First, we needed to secure Jack's remaining finances. Amanda had already taken $50,000, but there was a risk she might attempt to access other accounts or run up credit card debt before disappearing. I've prepared temporary restraining orders, Frank explained, which we can file immediately. I've also drafted emergency motions to freeze joint assets pending divorce proceedings. Divorce. Jack repeated the word as if testing its reality. I never imagined I'd be getting divorced after only 3 years. In this case, there may also be grounds for annulment, Frank said. Given the evidence of fraud and bad faith entering the marriage, we can discuss that option as well. As Frank continued explaining the legal steps ahead, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Mr. Wilson, I thought you should know that Amanda has just emptied another account she shared with Jack. A business account this time, with approximately $38,000. She did this about 20 minutes ago at First National Bank downtown. I thanked Sarah and relayed the information to Jack and Frank. Jack looked stunned. That was money for my new investment firm. I've been saving that for 2 years. Frank immediately got on his phone, calling a judge he knew to expedite our emergency orders. Within 30 minutes, he had secured temporary freezes on all remaining joint accounts. She's making her move now, Frank said grimly. She knows her cover is blown, so she's grabbing what she can before running. What about her flight tomorrow? Jack asked. We can alert the police. But honestly, if she's as experienced at this as she appears to be, she'll probably change her plans now that she knows we're onto her. Just then, Jack's phone began ringing repeatedly. He looked at the screen. It's Amanda. She's called 4 times in the last minute. You don't have to answer, I said. No, I think I do. Jack took a deep breath and put the phone on speaker. Hello? Jack. Amanda's voice was frantic. What have you done? My cards aren't working. The bank says our accounts are frozen. I know about the money you took, Amanda. Both accounts. There was a brief silence. That money is as much mine as yours. We're married, remember? Or has your father convinced you to throw everything away based on his paranoid delusions? Stop it, Jack said, his voice suddenly firm. I heard the recording. I've seen the evidence. I know about Derek and the properties in Florida. It's over, Amanda. This is ridiculous. I can explain everything if you just come home and talk to me without your father poisoning your mind. I'm filing for divorce, Jack said simply. And I've already spoken to the police about the money you've taken. Amanda's tone changed instantly from pleading to threatening. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Jack. I will destroy both of you. I have friends at every major newspaper in Boston. By tomorrow, everyone will know about your father's disgusting behavior. We both know those are lies, Jack replied. And Frank has already prepared defamation suits if you try to spread those stories. It's over, Amanda. It's that bitch investigator, isn't it? Amanda hissed. Sarah Jenkins. She's been following me, digging into my past. Jack looked surprised. How do you know about Sarah? Amanda laughed bitterly. I have my own resources, Jack. Did you really think I wouldn't notice someone following me? I know everything. I know your father hired her 2 days ago. I know she's been talking to people from my past. I'm always one step ahead. I nodded to Jack. Amanda had just made another mistake, revealing knowledge she shouldn't have had. If you're so smart, Jack said, why are you panicking about frozen bank accounts? Why are you calling me instead of boarding your flight to Miami with Derek? There was a moment of silence. This isn't over, Amanda said finally, her voice cold. Not by a long shot. The line went dead. Well, Frank said. That was illuminating. She just admitted knowledge of Sarah's investigation, which corroborates your claim that she's been monitoring your activities. That's additional evidence of premeditation. Jack put down his phone. What happens now? Now we accelerate everything, Frank replied. I'll file all these papers immediately. We'll need to change the locks on your house, Jack, and secure any valuables. Based on Amanda's reaction, she's likely to become more desperate, which means more unpredictable. While Frank made calls to expedite our legal proceedings, Jack and I sat in a moment of shared silence. Dad, Jack said finally. Thank you. If you hadn't investigated, if you hadn't recorded those conversations, I might have lost everything. You're my son, Jack. There's nothing I wouldn't do to protect you. By late afternoon, the initial legal protections were in place. Jack's accounts were secured, restraining orders were filed, and divorce proceedings had been initiated. Frank had also spoken with the police about Amanda's theft of the joint funds, though they advised that as a spouse, it might be difficult to pursue criminal charges rather than handling it through the divorce. I've arranged for a locksmith to meet us at your house, I told Jack. And I think you should stay with me for a few days, at least until things settle down. Jack agreed, and we drove to his house to collect some of his things and change the locks. As we pulled into the driveway, we could see that Amanda's car was gone. Do you think she's already left? Jack asked. Let's be careful anyway. The locksmith arrived shortly after we did, and we waited while he changed all the exterior locks. Jack then went inside to pack some clothes and essential items while I waited in the living room. Looking around at the home Jack and Amanda had shared, I felt a profound sadness. What should have been the beginning of a happy life together had been nothing but an elaborate con. Jack came downstairs with a small suitcase. I can't believe I have to leave my own home. It's temporary, son. Once the legal issues are sorted out, you'll be back. As we were about to leave, Jack's phone rang again. He looked at the screen. It's not Amanda this time. It's a number I don't recognize. He answered cautiously. Hello? I could hear a man's voice on the other end, though not clearly enough to make out the words. Jack's expression changed from confusion to anger. "Who is this?" he demanded. After a pause, he said, "Derek Stevens? You've got a lot of nerve calling me." I raised my eyebrows, surprised that Amanda's boyfriend would contact Jack directly. Jack listened for another moment. "She what?" His face paled slightly. "When?" Another pause. "Which hospital?" When Jack hung up, he looked shaken. That was Derek Stevens. He says Amanda was just admitted to Boston General. Apparently she took a bunch of pills. He says it might have been a suicide attempt. Or another manipulation, I said cautiously. That's what I thought too. But he sounded genuinely freaked out. Said he found her unconscious in her car outside his apartment. We looked at each other, uncertain. This could be yet another one of Amanda's tactics to regain control, to pull Jack back into her web of manipulation. But if it wasn't, we should at least check, Jack said finally. Not for her sake, but for mine. I need to know if this is real. I nodded, understanding his need for certainty. I'll drive. As we headed to Boston General Hospital, I couldn't help wondering if we were walking into another trap. But looking at my son's face, I knew this was a necessary step in his journey toward closure, whatever we might find when we arrived. The emergency room at Boston General was busy, with doctors and nurses moving quickly between curtained areas. Jack approached the front desk and gave Amanda's name. The nurse checked her computer. Yes, she was brought in about 40 minutes ago. Are you family? I'm her husband, Jack said, the words sounding strange under the circumstances. She's been stabilized, the nurse told us. The doctor can give you more information. We were directed to a waiting area, and about 10 minutes later, a doctor approached. Mr. Wilson? I'm Dr. Patel. Your wife was brought in with an apparent overdose of sleeping medication. We've pumped her stomach and she's receiving fluids. She's conscious now. Was it really a suicide attempt? Jack asked. Dr. Patel's expression was carefully neutral. The amount she took was concerning, but not life-threatening. She was found quickly, and she had her phone in her hand with emergency services already dialed. I can't speculate on intent. Jack and I exchanged glances. It sounded more like a cry for attention than a serious attempt. There's someone with her now, Dr. Patel continued. He identified himself as a friend. Tall guy? Dark hair? Expensive watch? I asked. Dr. Patel nodded. That sounds right. Derek Stevens was still there. I wondered what his role was in all this. Was he a fellow con artist? A partner in Amanda's schemes? Or was he another victim, manipulated just as Jack had been? Can I see her? Jack asked. The doctor hesitated. She's not in any danger, but she is in a fragile emotional state. If you're having domestic issues, it might be better to wait. I understand, Jack said, but I need to see her. To end this cleanly, Dr. Patel nodded and led us to a curtained area. Before pulling back the curtain, Jack took a deep breath, steadying himself. Then he nodded, and the doctor opened the curtain. Amanda lay on the hospital bed, an IV in her arm, looking pale but very much alert. Derek Stevens sat beside her, holding her hand. When they saw Jack, Derek stood up quickly, looking uncomfortable. Jack, Amanda said weakly. You came. I needed to make sure you were okay. Jack replied, his voice even. Derek cleared his throat awkwardly. I should probably go. No, Jack said. You should stay. This involves you too. Amanda's eyes darted between the two men. Jack, I can explain everything. Derek is just a friend who's been helping me through some difficult times. Stop, Jack said firmly. No more lies, Amanda. I know everything. About Derek, about the money, about your plans to leave, about the properties in Florida, about your past, and the other men you've done this to. Amanda's expression hardened slightly, the vulnerable patient act slipping. Your father has poisoned you against me. He's been trying to come between us from the beginning. My father protected me from a con artist, Jack replied. Which is what you are. What both of you are. Derek looked offended. Hey, I'm not part of any con. Amanda and I are in a relationship, but I didn't know about any schemes involving you or your father. Really? I interjected, stepping forward. So you didn't know about the $2 million she was trying to extort from me? Or about the money she took from Jack's accounts? Derek looked genuinely surprised. $2 million? What are you talking about? Amanda shot him a warning look. Derek, don't listen to them. They're trying to turn you against me too. Jack pulled out his phone. Let me play you something, Derek. He played part of my recording from Riverside Park, the section where Amanda explicitly mentioned Derek and their plans to go to Miami together after getting my money. Derek's face registered shock, then anger. You told me you were getting a divorce settlement. You never said anything about blackmail or stealing. She's been lying to everyone, Jack said quietly. Including you, apparently. Derek turned to Amanda. Is this true? Were you planning to blackmail his father? Amanda's demeanor changed completely. Gone was the fragile patient, replaced by a cold, calculating woman. Don't be so naive, Derek. How did you think I was going to get the money for our fresh start? Jack's salary? Please. I'm out of here, Derek said, grabbing his jacket. This is way more than I signed up for. Derek, wait. Amanda called after him, but he was already walking away. Left alone with us, Amanda's expression became defiant. So what now? You've ruined everything. Are you happy? I didn't ruin anything, Amanda, Jack said. You did that all on your own. I came here to make sure you weren't actually dying, and now I can see you're fine. The divorce papers have been filed. The police know about the money you stole. It's over. This isn't over until I say it's over, Amanda hissed. I still have copies of those emails. I can still go to the press. With fabricated evidence that we can easily disprove? I asked. That would only add defamation to the charges against you. Charges? Amanda looked momentarily concerned. Frank has been in touch with the police departments in Arizona and Washington, I explained. They're very interested in reopening some old cases now that we've connected your various identities. The color drained from Amanda's face. You're bluffing. We're done here, Jack said, turning to leave. Goodbye, Amanda. Jack, wait. There was genuine panic in her voice now. You can't just leave me here. Where am I supposed to go? You've frozen all our accounts. Jack paused, then turned back. The hospital will discharge you when you're medically cleared. After that, I don't care where you go. Just not to our house. The locks have been changed. As we walked away, we could hear Amanda calling after us, her threats turning to pleas, then back to threats again. But her voice grew fainter as we moved down the corridor, until finally, we couldn't hear her at all. Outside the hospital, Jack took a deep breath of the evening air. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 3 years and can finally exhale. It's going to take time to process all of this, I said gently. But you've taken the first steps. Over the next month, the full extent of Amanda's deception unfolded. With Frank's help, Jack was able to recover some of the money she had taken, though not all of it. The divorce proceedings moved forward, with Amanda eventually agreeing to an uncontested divorce when she realized the overwhelming evidence against her. The police in Arizona reopened an old fraud case against Amanda under her previous identity, and she eventually faced charges there after the divorce was finalized. Derek Stevens, it turned out, had his own legal problems to deal with, and quickly distanced himself from Amanda when he realized the depth of her schemes. Jack moved back into his house, though he told me he was considering selling it and starting fresh somewhere without the painful memories. He took a leave of absence from work to focus on healing and rebuilding his life. One evening, about 6 weeks after the confrontation at the hospital, Jack came over for dinner. As we sat on my back porch watching the sunset, he seemed more at peace than I had seen him in a long time. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said, about how I missed all the warning signs with Amanda. There were so many red flags that I just ignored. We all have blind spots when it comes to people we care about, I replied. You wanted to see the best in her, but you saw through her, Dad. Almost from the beginning. Why didn't I listen to you? I thought carefully before answering. When you're in love, or what you think is love, you don't want to hear doubts or criticism about that person. I understood that, which is why I was careful not to push too hard with my concerns. Maybe that was a mistake. No, Jack said firmly. You respected my choices, even when you disagreed with them. That's what a good parent does. And when it really mattered, when she tried to destroy our family, you fought for me, for us. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping our drinks and watching as the sky turned from orange to deep purple. "I've learned so much from all this," Jack said finally. "About trust. About seeing people for who they really are, not who I want them to be. About standing up for myself. Those are valuable lessons, even if the way you learned them was painful. The strangest part is that I don't feel bitter," Jack continued. "I thought I would be angry for a long time, but mostly I just feel free, like I've been given a second chance." I smiled, feeling a profound sense of pride in my son's resilience. That's a healthy perspective. Holding on to anger only hurts you in the long run. "I'm thinking of starting a support group," Jack said. "For people who've been victims of similar situations. There must be others out there who've gone through what I did and felt too embarrassed or ashamed to speak up." "That's a wonderful idea. Taking your painful experience and using it to help others." Jack nodded. "I've already spoken with Gerald Lawson, Amanda's previous victim. He's still dealing with the shame of having paid her off instead of confronting her. I think it helped him to know he wasn't alone." As darkness fell and the first stars appeared, Jack turned to me with a serious expression. "Dad, thank you. Not just for saving me from Amanda, but for showing me what real love looks like. Love that protects, that tells hard truths when necessary, that stands firm even when it's difficult." I felt tears prick my eyes. "You're my son, Jack. That's what family does. We stand together against those who would try to harm us." In the months that followed, life gradually returned to normal, though it was a new normal. Jack did indeed start his support group, which grew quickly as word spread. He sold his house and bought a smaller place closer to mine. We spent more time together than we had in years, rebuilding our bond that Amanda had tried so hard to break. Frank helped me update my will, ensuring that Jack would be protected, while also fulfilling my wishes to support several charities that were important to me. Jack was fully supportive of these decisions, understanding that my legacy belonged to both him and the causes I cared about. Amanda eventually pled guilty to fraud charges in Arizona and received a 3-year sentence. Jack and I agreed not to follow the case closely, focusing instead on moving forward with our lives. 1 year after the confrontation at the hospital, Jack and I stood together on the deck of a rented beach house in Cape Cod, watching the waves roll in. Jack had just told me he had started dating again, very cautiously, a woman he had met through his volunteer work. "Are you nervous about trusting someone again?" I asked. Jack considered the question. "Yes and no. I'm more careful now, more observant. But I also know that closing myself off completely would be letting Amanda win in a way. The key is balance, trust, but verify. Open your heart, but keep your eyes open too." I nodded, thinking about how much wisdom my son had gained through his painful experience. "You know what I've realized is the most important lesson from everything that happened?" Jack continued. "That sometimes you have to play the long game. You taught me that, Dad. When Amanda first started making her accusations, you could have confronted her immediately, created a huge family drama. But instead, you were patient. You gathered evidence. You built your case carefully. And when the moment came, you were ready." "Sometimes that's the only way to deal with manipulative people," I agreed. "They want you to react emotionally, to make mistakes. Patience and preparation are powerful weapons against deception." As the sun began to set over the ocean, casting long golden rays across the water, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Despite Amanda's best efforts to destroy our family, Jack and I were closer than ever. The bonds of genuine love and trust had proven stronger than any scheme or manipulation. "Life is too short to waste it looking backward," I told Jack. "Amanda is in our past now. Your future is bright, and it's entirely yours to shape." Jack smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Our future, Dad. We're in this together." And in that moment, watching the sunset with my son, I knew that we had not just survived Amanda's attempt to destroy our family. We had emerged stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected than ever before. Have you ever had to deal with someone manipulative in your life? How did you handle the situation? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the most powerful response to manipulation is simply standing firm in your truth.